if you can pick some of those bigger items and find a way to make them happen, then that'll help you grow the equity to do the smaller items throughout the whole house.
Going once, going twice, sold. You're listening to the Property Pod.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Property Pod, your weekly engagement here into real estate in the Hobart marketplace. I'm your host, Aaron Horn, and I'm joined, as always, by our two real estate agents, John McGregor.
That is me.
And Patrick Berry.
How do I top that intro?
Hello. Good morning.
Bit excited this morning, John.
No, it's just the way you paused. As it was like, present.
Aaron's getting his old school teacher back out.
Yes, we are all here in the room and we're all very excited to be back with the Property Pod. Whether you're listening on a super yacht in the French Riviera or you're a nan listening in your chair knitting beanies for your grandson, we are here for you.
Oh, that works perfectly.
I like the reach that you've got these days.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with that. I was lying in bed last night thinking about that one, just kind of being like, how can I reach out to our two biggest fans? We've got Megan in France and then Nan sitting around.
I apologise, Simon. I know you love to walk the dogs on a Sunday morning and listen to the pod, so my shout-out is to you.
Oh, nice. Actually, you got a really good feedback for last week's episode from Simon, saying that he was tracking along.
Walking the dogs to the cafe and wanted to reach out and say congratulations to your dad, Chris. He really enjoyed listening to the show.
That was actually really nice to hear. We had a few comments like that too. I think people are actually surprised by the depth of Dad's experience. Because he's always fun to joke around. He's been good at his job, but, it does stretch back a lot further than probably people appreciate. But it's really nice for Simon to say that, actually. Yeah,
even as you went into, like, all the stuff in the very long-winded intro that you read out, which I did like Pat's joke at the end. He's like, all right, that's the end of the episode. We're all done. But as we were going through that, I was just kind of like, oh, man, he's like had his finger in so many pies across so long and is really, really engaged in the real estate industry. So, it was a very, very interesting listen having your dad on. And I did wonder, you went to Adelaide for the weekend with the whole family. Were you overshadowed by his celebrity now that he... like there was Luke there.
He's been on the pod.
Yeah, now that he's been on the pod, did you just feel like...
Let's just say he's brought back a fur coat.
All right, boys, that's enough chit-chat for this morning. Let's jump into a very well-researched show.
Oh, yes.
Just a shout-out to our... we actually have a new staff member on board who's helping out with the pod and helping out with all things content across the 414 Property Co. We've kind of been promising for ages on the pod that we wanted to kind of be a information hub, a place where people can come and find all the stuff they need to know, and we want to really help grow everyone's kind of knowledge base on all things real estate. We're not here to be gatekeepers of information. We're here to kind of share it. So Nino's come on board and is absolutely killing it in the research department and kind of helping us with blog posts, helping us with our social media, and absolute star.
We've got big plans for Nino. He's going to help us with, like Aaron said, blog posts, researching our podcast each week, but he's also going to help us put some buyer guide books together and some educational suburb books based around what it's like to live in a suburb, what demographic it is, and just a wealth of info. So we really want to build a catalogue of just information to really help people better understand the property market.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another reason why I'm excited about is that that's his job at the moment, like just create content, research, provide, and then reach out. And obviously in the meantime, he's reaching out to us as well to get ideas from our agents and everyone in our office as well, which is cool.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's something we've always wanted to be doing, but we've just kind of had time constraints and found it too difficult. But we found a way to make this work, and so it's very exciting.
Welcome Nino as our official copywriter.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. And the most comprehensive, useful notes we've ever had on the pod.
Yeah. We're not actually guessing this week. We've got notes.
So look out.
It could go anywhere.
All right, so let's jump into this first article here that he's put it together. Basically, what we wanted to focus on today was kind of renovating and first home buyers. So jumping into the marketplace and kind of knowing not to stretch beyond your means, I guess would be a really good way of summing it up straight away.
I think, Aaron, you're a prime example of this before it actually became a trend.
Yeah, look, I was trendy before, way before my time.
Oh, yeah.
So
I've been cool since way back when.
I remember at high school, very cool.
Thank you very much.
Well, it's funny because it's true. I mean, tell us about your story. Like, what was the genesis to start thinking about that to begin with?
Yeah, well, it actually kind of ties in really well with one of the articles that Jared Bevan had written for the renovation, the key to success for first-time home buyers. So the story goes that Robert Jurozovic, I hope I said that wrong, he's right.
Perfect.
He's a 21-year-old first-time home buyer who made a purchase in Blackmans Bay. He looked for properties kind of all through the Kingborough area, all through Hobart. But a way to find it at a lower price is he found a unit that needed a little bit of fixing up. And he's going to go in there, fix it up a bit, kind of mess with the kitchen and give it a bit more extra life and go from there. So that's basically the story of my first home. It's funny because we looked into new builds and kind of thought, is this something we want to do? And for me, the main idea just kind of was like, I don't feel like this would be mine. I don't feel like I would have that ownership on this like kind of kit home that's been built and it's kind of just got all the bells and whistles already there. I love to kind of tinker. I love to have the freedom to make my own thing. And within a week and a half of discussing with Sarah, my partner, do you think we should look into buying a home together? I walked into a house that took the photos of and just fell in love instantly and could kind of already see the changes I wanted to make. Like it was definitely well loved. It had been lived in by a family, I think, for the entirety of its life. And from there, we came in and we pulled out a wall. The first thing we did was pull out the carpet and kind of polish up the floorboards and just give it a new lease on life. So
I think the biggest thing you did was really that wall. Taking for anyone that people don't know, it was sort of a kitchen dining space and then the lounge room was on the other side and both spaces were quite skinny. They were long but skinny.
You had to walk through like a U.
Yeah. And by just removing this one wall back to the sort of the start of the hallway, and it just really opens up the space. And now you have this really modern open plan living area, which is what you would normally come to find in those newer spec homes that people build.
Yeah, so it was kind of one of those things where we looked at I looked at it straight away and I was just like, oh man, if you just pulled this wall out, if you can, it would just open up this space.
You can do anything with enough money.
Well, funnily enough, it was one of those things where it was a load bearing, so we had to, get someone to come in and work out how to put in the beam and do all those things. But it was funny, the day before we pulled out the wall, I was like, what if I'm wrong? What if this just messes with everything? This is my biggest investment ever. What if I'm wrong?
I immediately regret this decision.
You can always build it back.
I didn't think of that. But so I had a little panic that like, what if I'm wrong? But it was one of those moments of this is make or break. And I feel like it's really made the property what it is. And you walk in, you're engaged in this big family area straight away.
I think as well, just the whole reconfiguration. You didn't do a lot of big changes, but you did some important ones. Like the laundry at some stage had been turned into an external laundry that you couldn't access from inside the house. Adding a small cavity slider, which I think you did through the linen press.
It used to be, So you just, that classic, you go down the hallway and there's the two linen closets. It's like, if we just move a smaller closet into the laundry space, which was really large, that'll open up a chance to
be able to get internal
access internally.
And then the other thing I really loved as well is just the addition of the French doors to the backyard, just to create that inside-outside experience. So, sliding doors become really popular, but just those classic doors that you guys have installed, I think just really adds to the character of the house and just connects that backyard to the living space really well.
Again, it was one of those things that I kind of saw straight away in my mind's eye and just was like, this is kind of what I think will go here. And speaking to a builder, he was like, yep, sweet, we can definitely arrange that. So I guess, the really important thing is kind of being open to the idea of what you can walk into and see, you can change and you can adapt to fit yourself.
And did you start the work immediately? How long did you live in there before you started the renos?
Yeah, so the day we took possession, I pulled up the carpet. I knew that they had some floorboards under there, but I didn't know what condition they were in, and they actually were already kind of polished from the beginning, but I imagine it might have been something to do with keeping the temperature in and stuff with the carpet. But we've since put, what's that stuff called? Insulation and stuff in.
Yeah.
So we've rectified that issue. But it was just one of those things where we started straight away with that and then just tinkered away. So it was probably a 2-year process, I want to say. How long have I been in there?
I'll be about that. And look, you still got things you're working on.
There's still things to do.
But like it's just a completely different place to what it was.
Yeah.
Well, that because it was that the facts that he mentioned in the the Finders First Home Buyers Report 2021. It just said 1 in 5 or 22% plan to renovate immediately after buying, while 30% will do something within the first 12 months. So it's right in line with that, eh? But one of the things that sorry, mate.
Oh, you go. I was just going to jump in on there and just say that what I really like about how Aaron and a lot of people that this article sort of references is that when you try to do it over the course of a couple of years as well, it gives you opportunity, especially in the market we're in, for the property to grow equity.
Absolutely.
And then with the renovations you do, that adds equity.
Yeah.
So then you've got the ability to redraw against that to be able to do the next part of the project. So you might not be in a position to buy it on day one and just jump in and gut the entire place and rebuild it.
Yeah.
If you can, fantastic. That's awesome. But if you can pick some of those bigger items and find a way to make them happen, then that'll help you grow the equity to do the smaller items throughout the whole house.
Yeah, that's so good because one of the things that bloke said that they referenced, I really like, he just said he had a very small list of must-haves.
Oh, yeah, I loved that when I read that bit of it too.
Whereas it's always the case that everyone has a complete flip when the first time is like, we must have, and then we get it too. It's like, well, what property are you looking for? Well, it must have this, this, and this, and this.
Has to be in this suburb. I'll never live in that suburb.
I won't pay above that. It's like, mate, you're just setting yourself up for failure and disappointment because it's just like sometimes, and even like my first little unit was a small little 2-bedroom in an apartment building at Claremont, and then it's like, well, but it was a first unit. It was just like, great, I'm in. It was pretty well as cheap as I could buy, but I've got something then, and you can start to build up from there over time. And obviously, he's sort of taking the same approach. He's like, right, I'm just going to get in. I'm going to get started. I'll just grab something. I'll do some bits, and take the long term. So it was probably a much easier process, I'd assume, for him to find something after he, cut down his list.
I think as well what some people might think as well is like, oh, we'll buy this, we'll fix it up, we'll flip it, and we'll go buy the other thing.
Yeah.
But I think what happens as well is that it becomes a home, and then people start to love it for different reasons to what it actually was when they first bought it. So.
Yeah, 100%. And that was kind of the one reason why I was really motivated to get in and make something my own was I was kind of, it'd be so interesting to see the ex-homeowners come in and just be like, oh, look what you've done to the place, because I'm sure they would have...
our family memories are gone.
So all the joy we get out of it, they're like, oh, well, such and such, we used to mark their height on that wall and now it's gone. So it's interesting because, you can really put your own stamp on things, and it's not just about building equity or making kind of monetary gains. It was kind of that, I'd really like this for, if I'm cooking in the kitchen and Sarah's in the living room with Jack, so I want to be able to be watching that and be part of it rather than being like, oh, I'm in the kitchen and I can hear them having a great time. So
we when we moved from our first place to our second place, we had Parker's height all on the inside of the architrave on the door.
Yep.
I pulled that bit of arc and took it with me and put a new bit on. But I don't know whatever happened to it. And then I always think, what a waste of time that was, pulling that off, painting that up, fixing it all back up so I could take some little pencil marks with me. And then I don't even know what, as part of the move, it just disappeared.
The intention was good.
So, I know that sort of sense of home and making it your own piece.
Yeah, no, it's really cool.
My last thoughts with that one too is often I'll just say to clients, hey, if you've never done it before, don't rush in and do a reno before you've even lived in the home, because you're coming in with a whole waft of expectations of what you think you want, but you haven't actually what you think and how you experience it when you're living there are two very, very different things. And how that played out was a house that had sold to a young couple at Montague Bay, and I think that's right.
No one's fact checking.
Yeah, it's your story. You can make it up.
That one near Bella Reef and stuff. And that they had, it was a sort of a 1930s, 1940s brick home. We had a lot of like retro features as well. Really high ceilings, beautiful boards underneath. But there's obviously the kitchen was really pokey, the bathroom was really pokey, so it wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. And they actually got me there before they to say, hey, look, here's what we're thinking of doing. How do you think that would play out if we were to look at resale long down the road? And we had a really good long discussion and throwing back things from Pinterest and images, etc. And then when I asked how they're going, they said, oh, look, we've decided to hold off for at least 12 months just while we live in the house, because we thought about what you said and thought, okay, it's actually a very different experience than what we thought we'd want. So now, like, all their expectations and what they want to do have started to change, because now they're actually living in the house. All of a sudden, what they thought they would have done by ripping that down and putting that there, like, no, that would have been a terrible idea. Wouldn't have worked at all.
Yeah, well, I guess that was my fear leading straight into walk in and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to rip that out, put these things in, and luckily,
It sounds like you got lucky, John saying.
yeah, no, well, that's what I kind of mean.
John's
I mean,
saying, Aaron, you really rolled the dice on that.
I was kind of petrified the day before. I was just mentioned before, so yeah.
Well, it's sort of, again though, some plans are much easier to work with than others. That you can just very quickly see the difference in what you're trying to achieve. And I think what your story was most important is that what I want a feeling where Sarah and Jack are playing, and I'm in the kitchen and I can see and experience it.
Yep.
That's what I want.
Yeah, that's the
that
end
makes
goal.
Clear sense. Sometimes people go, I want an open plan. Why? Like what are you trying to achieve out of it? But I think trying to match a story like that is perfect.
I really like your theory, Aaron, but by the time they get to, 5, 6, 7, you'll wish those balls were there and you can hide. I'm like, oh no. So
I'll
that
keep
back
that in
bungalow
mind.
that you're working on is going to become very valuable for you later down the
I'll
track.
keep that in mind.
It was a terrible decision, Sarah.
Just sticking with renovation stories here, it looks like one of the most viewed properties in all of Tasmania in recent weeks was just a fixer-upper kind of in, looks like Fletcher Avenue. You were talking about a 1940s, 1950s build. This was a 1964 home. Looking at the photos, it looks really tidy. It looks like it's just kind of one of those unassuming properties that you kind of would just think, it'll garner a little bit of interest, but it must have just been priced in a really good spot. Moona, I guess, is sought after in that its location's really nice, and
It went to market at offers over 405, and for Moona, that's incredibly cheap.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the median Moon is now close to 450. Well, it's getting close to 500.
Yeah, so for a property to price at
huge
that,
difference.
it's a very low price. So it's going to always go gangbusters.
so that's kind of because it's got kind of a few things that need to fix up. It's kind of not meeting the regular market trends of being like a modern kitchen or something in it.
Yeah,
It
I
kind
think,
of probably sits a bit lower.
I think the way John and I, and correct me if I'm wrong, John, but what we would normally do in pricing is we figure out what the median is, and then we look at a lot of homes, so we get a feeling of what the average place looks like. So therefore, the average place should achieve X. But then there's always homes that don't meet the average. Maybe they've got a rundown part of the property, or something's just not right with it, or there's a structural issue. So then that'll adjust the price down. Or maybe it's been fully renovated and it's not a 1950s home anymore, and it's a really modern place, so therefore it's better than the median price. So the median sort of starts our expectation, and then we grow from there depending on what the property is, don't we?
Well, we actually, at the moment, there's correspondence going out into our local industry from the Property Agents Board with concerns about underquoting at the moment. When underquoting is specifically when it's advertised way below what the owner's expectations would be in order just to bring people in. So
I saw that article come through into our emails yesterday, and I was like, we've already got this great show planned. Perhaps that's something we could address just moving forward, just because it's a pretty interesting idea in such a hot market.
Absolutely. And I think at the end, I suppose, if we just park that thought in many ways, because it is as you said, when we had $400,000 for a house in Moona,
Seemed cheap.
we okay,
It seemed real cheap.
So the idea that it went 20% above the asking price.
So I think just the stats here are saying the home was sold for $486,000. So
11 offers on the property, but that's not unusual. A lot of properties get multiple offers.
Yep.
And
But yeah, obviously, in upward markets, it's hard to know where the end game is going to be. Sometimes, though, with properties where there may be a stretch of 20% above the asking price in an area like Moona, that can be concerning, and you could really understand why consumers are like, why the hell was it even priced at that point anyway? I think, though, harking back to the article, where Moona transformed was that in order, the next suburb over, which is Newtown, which is considered, an affluent area in that sense, very sought after, is that you can buy the same house you were able to and still can buy the same house in Moona as opposed to Newtown for like 20% less than less price, and you save about 3 to 5 minutes worth of drive time. So what happened with Moona and Lutana is in those first suburbs closest from the Hobart municipality.
Yep.
Is it all of a sudden they became exceptionally trendy. So it's got the commercial aspect, it's got that urban aspect, it's got a whole other ways that it's transforming. So bringing back also too, where you've got this retro design, which is started to become exceptionally popular. Those triangle brown dresses and stuff like that are all exceptionally. That's the current.
I don't know what the triangle brown. I was thinking of that rattan kind of stuff that's coming back at Kmart, but yeah, triangle brown.
That's what happened at my house. It's because legitimately a house we sold in Maple Avenue, which would have been identical to this Fletcher one, it was filled with like a 1950s, 60 furniture. Like it's like it hadn't been touched throughout history. It was like a museum piece.
Yeah.
It was remarkable. But when we sold that, it was just before like our generation specifically. Like that's become our antique in some ways.
I can see that.
So it's like, but that was before it was popular. So no one was like, no one wanted it.
That's it's a really interesting kind of statement you've made, John, because we've actually got another Nino article coming through later this week about Moona and its rise in kind of trendiness and just how, you don't have to go to the North Hobart Strip anymore to get really good food. The Moona Strip is becoming a new place to kind of to eat and go out. You don't have to go into the city anymore to do that. So
people coming into Moona for coffee specifically from both sides of the
I don't know who does that. Not us. Not us multiple times a day.
As he has a sip.
Shake a leg. Got to get a plug in.
No, so that's a really good point to probably finish on today, John. So yeah, we'll link that article into the show notes for this one. Really enjoyed having a well-researched show. That was.
I'm feeling slightly guilty because Nino's done 3 articles and we've covered one. So.
we crossed off 2 there. That was all right.
It's all good. It just means he's got less work to do this week because we've already got some other stuff to talk about next week.
Beautiful.
Cool.
Awesome. So good to have you guys back. I've done pretty well with the buttons today.
Is flowing a bit more naturally now?
Yeah, it's probably easier with 3 rather than 4, but we'll just see what happens in the future.
Awesome.
All
Thanks
right,
heaps
guys.
for a good show, guys.
All right, see ya.
See ya.
Bye. You have been listening to The Property Pod, recorded and edited by 414 Media House in conjunction with 414 Property Co.
This podcast is general information only, and the thoughts and views expressed is the opinion of our panel, and listeners should always seek and use their own investigation into any topic we discuss to ensure they fully understand their own situation.
It does not constitute and should not be relied on as purchasing, selling, financial or investment advice or recommendations, express or implied, and it should not be used as an invitation to take up any agent or investment services. No investment decision or activity should be undertaken on the basis of this information without first seeking qualified and professional advice.